While we can say a cup of coffee, we can say a coffee, we can say 2 cups of coffee depending on what the context is. I can even say something like 2 coffees and an orange juice please. But otherwise, in singularity, we cannot say I will have an orange juice. I will have orange juice is quite sufficient. There is no need to attach I will have an orange juice unless it goes in tandem with other items being mentioned. So beverages, we can safely say coffee, tea, juice, etc. They do not take something like an article before them unless there is a number being mentioned. All right. Now, that is the difference that we want to observe between a count noun and an uncount noun. As is clear to you, uncount noun is not something that can be counted. So let's take a look at some of the uncountable nouns and see how they can be manifest in our everyday speech and how they can be tested in various exams. Now, if you take words like accommodation, advice, furniture, weather, bread, news, travel, progress, work. Now these are some of the uncountable nouns. So what is the rule that we want to look at here when we are looking at uncountable nouns? We want to say that none of these words will take an article before them. That means they will not have a or an before them. So once this is clear, let us look at how it can manifest. Now say for example, if you take a look at this sentence, have a good time. There is no time. I have no time. Now say for example, we compare this sentence with I have no time. I have a good time. Now this one we are wishing somebody, so therefore have a good time. Though it does not imply a singularity and a plurality, it is required. You cannot say something like have good time. It sounds incomplete, doesn't it? So therefore we have to use a. So this is what we call as the necessity for using this. There is no singularity, plurality observed here. Now here you see, I have no time to spare. If I say I have no time, again, I need not use a or an. I don't have no a time or I don't have a no time. All these variations are not required because by itself the meaning is very clear. So it is not that every time we have to definitely use a or an or the with a countable noun or with a plural countable noun or with a singular countable noun. It is not definitive that we should use these in every case. Like I told you in the beginning, there would be exceptions to all these rules. Now let's take a look at this particular sentence. Did you hear a noise? What are we talking about? Why have we used a here? We have used a here because we are talking about one particular noise that we might have heard. One particular noise. What is noise? Is that a count noun or a non-count noun? By itself, noise is a non-count noun. It's like music. But why are we using a here? We are using a here because we are addressing one particular noise that we might have heard. And that's the reason why we are using an indefinite article a. Let's take a look at the same word noise and see how it can be translated into a uncountable noun. There is too much noise. Here it becomes uncountable and therefore we have not used an article but we have used a defining word much to say or to identify with the quantum of noise that we might hear. Alright, so quantum or quantifier, therefore uncountable. So the same noun can be used as a count noun or as an uncount noun with a difference in meaning. Here we are talking about one particular noise. Here we are talking about noise in general. So that kind of difference in meaning comes when you use a and when you avoid using the article. So you want to be very careful when you're using articles. Take a look at the next sentence. To highlight the same factor, take a look at next sentence. You can stay with us. There is a spare room. That means there is one particular room that I am talking about. There is a spare room. You can stay with us. Compare this sentence with, I have no room to spare. That means what? What is the difference in meaning here? That means I have one spare room here. There is a room, you can stay there. Here, I have no room to spare. That means I have no space at all. No place at all. This need not imply room as in a room. This implies space. The room here implies space. Alright, so that could be the difference in meaning when we are using the same kind of nouns or seemingly same kind of words in this context, if not the same noun, but preceded by an article. Here it is preceded by a verb, okay, a to, an infinitive, so to say. So therefore, we need to be a little careful about what difference in meaning we want to bring about when we use these count nouns and non-count nouns. Seemingly the words seem the same, but whether or not you use an article, that defines whether the meaning that you want to convey is being conveyed or not. Now let's take a look at some of these words and how they can manifest themselves in terms of a non-count noun. Now these are non-count nouns like I told you a while earlier. Now for example, take this. Suppose I want to buy more than one bread. What do I say? I bought bread. I bought bread. Could be one bread, two bread, 10 bread, whatever. But I bought a loaf of bread. Now what? Very definitively, this is one item, only one loaf. But substitute this, I can say, I bought 2 loaves of bread. But I cannot at any point of time say I bought 2 breads. There is nothing like breads in English language. Yes, when you're talking about different varieties of bread like roti, chapati, naan and all that, there would be some people, especially some people who would say something like, different kinds of breads. It is quite possible, that is quite acceptable. But in this particular context, you don't say I bought bread, or you can say I bought bread, but you cannot say I bought 2 breads, 3 breads and so on. So bread as such is singular, remains so, it is uncountable. So singular plural does not arise at all. Now let's take another uncountable noun and see how we can translate that to countable. For example, travel. I travel to work. I went on a short journey. Now the question here, this is non-count, that is fine. Now the question here, can I say something like I went on a short travel? I cannot say I went on a short travel. I can only say I went on a short journey. Travel is an uncountable noun, so I cannot use this kind of structure at all. Journeys can be counted, so I can say I went on a short journey or I went on a long journey, whatever I can describe the journey. The same cannot be said of travel. Now let's take a look at another word here in the same set. Now take news. What kind of noun is news? Obviously, since it's listed here, it would be an uncountable noun. But some of you might ask, isn't this plural because it ends in an S? Please remember that all nouns ending in an S are not plurals. Now because they are not plurals, this is one specific noun that does not have anything to do with plurality. So for example, you cannot say something like, there were news about an accident. You see the contradiction in the sentence? The contradiction in the sentence is you're using a plural verb and you're using a singular noun or a singular article to identify with news. So therefore this would be incorrect. You would say there was news about an accident, because news by itself is an uncountable noun. It is neither singular nor plural. Right? So some of these uncountable nouns, you have to be very careful in how you analyze them, and whether you're using an article or whether you're using a or an, depending on the pronunciation of where you want to use what. Okay? An understanding of the count nouns and the uncountable nouns can be seen with a few more examples. Now, the more examples, the more number of examples you do, the better your acquisition of skills in this particular area would be. Now, since we are talking about uncountable nouns and how to use them, let's take a look at some of the examples that we might commonly see. I am looking for a job, but I am looking for work. A or an not required when you're looking at work. So what is work? Work is an uncountable noun. What is job? Since we have associated this with a, job is, like I explained earlier, you can have one job, two jobs, three jobs, and so on. This is a count noun. See how you can vary the meaning here. I am looking for a job, I am looking for work. Meaning is almost the same, right? But the usage style is different. Now take a look at the next sentence. For example, I can say, what a beautiful view. What a beautiful view. That means I'm talking about one particular view. But I cannot say, what a beautiful scenery. I will necessarily have to say, what beautiful scenery. So my sentence here would be, what beautiful scenery. So scenery, since scenery is an uncountable noun, it is a noun that cannot be counted but covers a panorama of whatever you are seeing, it would be, what beautiful scenery. I know some of us might feel that this sounds incomplete or this sounds incorrect, but that is correct language when you look at it this way. What beautiful scenery. So you can put an interjection or an exclamation mark here, depending on what you want to say. If you want to say it is very beautiful, then you say, what beautiful scenery, and then put an interjection mark, so that will convey the intensity of emotion. Not necessarily, I want to say, what a beautiful scenery, because I am so impressed with the scenery. Never like that. But what a beautiful view. That is perfectly all right. Take a look at this. It's a nice day today. Obviously, you know now, by now you know that days can be counted 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. So therefore, a nice day, perfectly all right. It's a nice day today. But can I say, it's a nice weather today? Can I say something like this? Obviously not. I'll have to say, it's nice weather today, not a nice weather today. So such kind of niceties in the usage of language is what will give you some kind of proficiency in terms of when you speak or when you write. Now, we all know, for example, if you take chairs, for example, there can be 1 chair, 2 chairs. So chairs are countable. So we can say, these chairs are mine. Perfectly all right. Perfectly correct. But what about this one? This furniture is mine? Yeah. But can I say this? I'll even change this for you. Say, these furnitures are mine, implying that there is a sofa, there is a table, there is a chair, there is a desk, and whatever other pieces are there. Can I say something like that? Obviously no. There is nothing like furnitures in existence. You can never use furnitures. Okay, I can say pieces of furniture, but I cannot say furnitures per se. So therefore, we cannot have the usage of furniture in terms of plurality just because we want to say there is a lot of furniture there. So, for example, if I were to write down this particular sentence, can I say something like, these furnitures are mine. I cannot, like I just explained, I cannot say these furnitures are mine, but I can say this furniture is mine. Obviously, since we cannot use furniture in its plurality, I can say individual items. So what I'm trying to say here is, I have other pieces of furniture. Now the plurality of the furniture comes out in the pieces, not necessarily by attaching an S to furniture. Please remember, furniture does not take an S. You can attach the plurality before. Okay? Now take a look at the next sentence. It was a good suggestion. Yeah, because I can receive suggestions. I can also receive advice. But when we are looking at suggestion and advice, suggestion can be a count noun. Advice is always uncountable. So, in essence, we cannot say something like it was a good advice. I cannot say something like that. I cannot say it was a good advice, but I will have to necessarily say that it was good advice. So therefore, this would be the correct form. So advice is always uncountable, suggestion is always countable. That's the reason why we have used a good suggestion. Now, where is all your furniture? Again, the all here identifies many different pieces necessarily related to furniture, but I have, as you have observed, we have not put an S here simply because that is unwarranted, that is incorrect English. Now take a look at the other noun that can be confusing. The other noun that can be confusing is news. News is perceived by some of us as being plural, but news is an uncountable noun. The mere presence of an S does not necessarily mean that it is plural. This is a noun by itself and it's always an uncountable noun. So, I'll have to say the news was very depressing. Not that the news were depressing. The news was depressing. So, news essentially is seen as an uncountable. Therefore, some of these nouns or some of these uncountable nouns are nouns that must be considered and must be seen in the right way for you to correct whatever errors you might have in this particular area of the usage of countable nouns, uncountable nouns, and the usage of articles before them. So let's take a look at the articles when we use a and when we can use the. Let's take a few examples to see how to control the use of a and the as far as countable and non-countables are used. Take the first example. Is there a bank near here? Because there could be a bank, there could be no bank, there could be more than one bank. So therefore, is there a bank near here? That means I'm not talking about any one particular bank, but I'm talking about any bank that could be in general there. Compare that with the next sentence. I must go to the bank. When I say I must go to the bank, what I mean is I am talking about one particular bank that I regularly visit, or I must go to that particular bank for some particular work. So the difference between a bank and the bank is this is not very definitive. There could be one bank, there could be many banks, or there could be no bank there. But here I'm talking about one particular bank that I need to go to. In the same way, take a look at the next sentence. My sister is a dentist. Whenever there is a job or profession being addressed, you use a or an depending on the kind of noun that is there. So, my sister is a dentist, which is perfectly all right. But I hate going to the dentist. So here we are being particular about dislike for going to the dentist. Here it talks about the dentist profession as a whole. Here it talks about my like or dislike for a dentist or for the dentist in particular. Right. Now take a look at the next sentence. My brother works in the army. Not my brother works in army, my brother works in a army. No. My brother works in the army, specifically identifying a certain profession. Take a look at the next one. She works 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. So whenever time is mentioned, like in 8 hours, 6 days, whenever time is mentioned with a number, it is followed by an indefinite article a, because that's how you delineate the time. Our train leaves from platform 5, not from the platform 5, only platform 5. Have you got these shoes in size 14, not in a size 14 or the size 14? So these are some of the basic differences that you need to keep in mind when you're using a and when you're using the. A few more details about the definitive article the we will do in our next session.